Hello and welcome back to another social skills lesson. So today I'll be continuing on the topic of conflict management. So I'll be teaching you all more skills today. 所以今天的冲突管理，我会再跟你们教你们多一些关于冲突管理的技巧。So today we're going to be doing on active listening. So some of y'all might have heard of active listening before, some of y'all haven't. So today I'm going to be telling y'all what active listening is all about. OK， 所以今天我会讲的是积极倾听。所以你们可能会听过这种听法，有些人可能没有，所以今天我会跟你们讲更多关于积极倾听的一些东西。So what is active listening? So active listening is when you are paying attention to what the person is saying and you are trying to understand how they feel. So it's not just listening. So some of y'all might think like, oh, I'm doing active listening all the time, but later you will realize that there's a difference between active listening and just hearing people or like just listening. OK， 所以什么是积极倾听？积极倾听是当你们在专心的听对方说话。then 你也是会试图的了解对方的感受，所以有些人你可能会觉得哦，我每天都是在积极倾听啊，可是等一下你会发现积极倾听跟普通的听有不一样的。Okay, so why is it important? So it's important because it helps you to fully understand what the person is thinking. Because you're active listening, you are tuned into the conversation. And when it comes to conflict, it also helps you to cooperate with the other party. And when the other party does active listening also, they will also be more likely to cooperate because now you fully understand or now you have a better understanding of what the situation is about. Okay, 所以为什么我们要积极倾听？是让你们了解对方的感受和想法。Then 在冲突的情况的时候，当你积极倾听，你更了解对方的想法，你更了解那个情况，那你就会更加想跟那个对方合作。Then 当对方也是用积极倾听来听你讲话，then 他们也是会更想跟你合作，所以有一种好像互相合作的东西。then 你们就能把那个事情还是那个问题解决比较好比较快。So how to practice active listening? So when you're active listening, you are paying attention to what the person is talking about. You are not thinking of other things. So when you're not active listening, your mind is out elsewhere. Your mind is not thinking of the person's speech. Like you're not focusing on the person, what the person is saying, but instead you may be thinking of like how to respond, how to talk back to the person after the person finished talking, or like judging what the person is saying. So maybe some of y'all might like when people are talking, you might think like, oh, why this person is saying this? I don't even feel that way. Like it's so dumb. It doesn't make sense. So when you are thinking of all these things, you are already not active listening. And it happens to a lot of us when we are in arguments or when we are in conflict, we tend to think about how to argue back instead. So that is not active listening. When you're active listening, you are more focused on what the person is saying and how the person is feeling. OK， 所以怎样积极倾听？所以当你在积极倾听的时候，你会专心的听对方说话，你不会去想其他的事。所以当你不在积极倾听的时候，你可能会想哦，他讲完后我怎样要回复他，怎样要去讲回他，还是你会判断他们说的话，就是好像你会当对方说话的时候，你会觉得哦，为什么这个人会讲这些事？为什么他会想到这样远？我也是没有想到这样远，他讲东西这样没有逻辑的。所以当你在想这些事，你已经就不是在积极倾听了。So another thing is that when you're active listening, you also will show that you are active listening. So how to show that you're listening? So sometimes when the person says some things, then you can nod your head or be like, oh yeah, I see. And when the person is talking about their feelings or their struggles, you acknowledge their feelings. So you say things like, oh, I understand where you're coming from. I see what you mean now, like these kind of things, to show that you are actually paying attention to what they are saying. You're paying attention to their feelings particularly. And also your posture matters. So you have to stand or sit up straight to show that it's to show some form of basic respect and also to show that you are paying attention. So on the opposite side, when you're not active listening, the other party can see that you're not interested. So like slouching, when you slouch or you look elsewhere, right, it's very obvious that you're not paying attention. And then sometimes you might not know, but you might sometimes accidentally roll your eyes also. So when you roll your eyes, it shows what you're feeling inside. It shows that you are judging the person. It shows that you think what the person is saying is dumb, or what the person is saying doesn't make sense. So when you do all these things, the person doesn't feel like they're being heard. So that is not active listening. Active listening will allow the other person to feel like you are listening to them and what they're saying is being acknowledged and validated. 所以当你在积极倾听的时候，你会表明你在听对方说的话。所以怎样表明呢？就像当对方说话的时候，你会点点头。Then 有时候他们在说他们的感受的时候，你可能会讲哦，我了解你在讲什么哦，现在我懂了。Then 你讲这些东西的时候，对方就会知道哦，他其实是了解我的心情，了解我的感受，他其实在听我讲的话。Then 当你在跟对方说话的时候，还是对方在跟你说话的时候，你也是要坐还是站直？因为当你弯腰驼背的时候，你就会表现你没有兴趣。所以当你不再积极倾听的时候，你就会就是讲弯腰驼背。then 你也是会看东看西，then 你不会看那个对方讲话，then 你也是可能会翻白眼。但当你在翻白脸的时候，对方就会知道，诶，其实他觉得我讲的话很笨，还是没有逻辑，then 你就是在表现你的判断，你就会你翻白眼的时候，对方就会觉得你不再听他的话，then 你不再了解他的感受。OK， 所以你应该要表现你有兴趣听他的话。And another thing is to respect what the person has said and also give appropriate feedback. So this one is a bit hard because sometimes you might not know how to respond, or sometimes you might not know what is appropriate feedback. So what I would say is just the main thing is just to know how to respect what the person is saying. So by showing that you're listening, and by sort of like trying to understand, to show that you're trying to understand, it is good enough already. It's like it's progress lah. You will work. The more you practice active listening, the more better you get at it. So in terms of like giving feedback appropriately, you can just say more general things, and basically to show that you are present, you are listening lah. So maybe like, oh, I understand, I see where you're coming from, I have some advice for you, you can take it if you want, like, like suggest something, but do not force it upon them to make them do it lah. Okay, so on the opposite side, when you're not active listening, it's when you are criticizing the person. So the important thing is not to criticize and not to reject what they're saying, because what they're talking to you about, right, is what they're feeling inside. So when you reject their words, it means that you're rejecting their feelings also. So imagine if someone did that to you, when you are talking about your feelings to someone, and the other person's just like, oh, that's dumb, or like, that you shouldn't be feeling this way. You feel like you're not being validated, right? You feel like the person is not listening to you and the person is not caring about you. So when you are active listening, you should try your best to acknowledge the person's feelings. So don't beat the person down for what they're saying, even though you might think that it doesn't make sense, even though it does not go with your values. You just try your best to just understand where they're coming from. So in terms of conflict, right, when you use active listening, it's also to show that you understand the person's opinion, and that you are not taking this personally, or you're not trying to make this personal. Okay， 所以当你们在积极倾听的时候，你就应该要尊重对方的说法， then 试一试给一些适合的回应。所以有时候你可能不会知道什么叫适合，什么时候应该说什么事，可是最重要的就是要尊重对方的说法。所以如果你不会回应，起码要尊重他们说的话。所以 当你不再积极倾听的时候，你会批评对方的感受，还是批评对方的说法，人也不会接受他们的解释。所以当你批评他们说的话，你就是在批评他们的心情，批评他们的感受。所以如果别人这样对你你会感到伤心，对吗？你会感到伤心、生气，认为为什么这个人会这样的，这样坏？我跟他讲我的感受，但他这样对我。所以如果你不要别人这样对你，你就不要对别人这样啦。OK，then，最重要的是要尊重对方的说法。then 当你在冲突的情况的时候，当你在积极倾听，你也是在跟对方讲，我其实是在听你说的话，虽然我不会跟你同意你的意见，我还是有把你的解释听下来，我还是有听你说的话，我还是了解你的感受。Okay? So when can we use active listening? So not only with conflict. So the good thing about active listening is that we can use it in other situations also. So the most important one is conflict and argument because this is conflict management. But also when you are complaining about things, or when someone is complaining to you, you can use active listening. And when you're talking about feelings, when someone comes to you and talk about their feelings, like maybe they're feeling sad, they're feeling stressed about something, you also can use active listening. And also in discussions, like group discussions or like when you're working together with someone else. Basically, in general, when someone is talking to you, it's a good time to use active listening. So anytime actually. 所以我们即使要用积极倾听，所以最重要的就是冲突还是在纠纷的时候，因为我现在是在教冲突管理的技巧。可是除了冲突，你其实在所有的时候也是可以用积极倾听。例如当别人跟你投诉，还是你在投诉的时候，你就可以积极倾听。Then 当别人跟你说出他们的感情的时候，好像他们的感受，就是如果你的朋友跟你讲他们很伤心，对一件事很伤心，你就可以积极的倾听。Then 最后就是在跟别人讨论东西的时候，也是可以积极倾听。Okay, so now it comes to the activity. So now I'm going to show you some things that people do or say, and you are going to identify who is active listening and who is not. So you can circle it down in the worksheet, and I'll still go through with you all the worksheet one more time after the video ends, but you can try and do it together with me right now lah, okay? 所以现在我们的活动就是你们就是要识别谁在积极倾听，还有谁不在积极倾听， then 你可以把它写在那个作业上。所以我现在会跟你们做一次 then 那个视频完了后我会再跟你们讲一次 okay? So this is Mary, and Mary is listening to someone talk, and she told the person, oh, your idea is dumb, I don't like it. 所以这是小美 then 小美在跟别人说话的时候，她就说，哦，你的主意很笨，我不喜欢。So do you think this is active listening or not? So it is not active listening. This is Mary is beating down on the other person's thoughts and ideas, so that is not active listening. She is not validating the person's feelings, okay? 所以小美不再积极倾听，因为她讲对方的主意很笨，所以对方可能会感到很伤心。So Lily is in the conversation, and she told the person, although you meant well, you still hurt my feelings. So do you think she's active listening? 所以在小丽在跟对方说话的时候，她说了，哦，虽然你是我知道你是为了我好，可是我还是有感到伤心。所以你觉得小丽在积极倾听吗？ So she is, because she's acknowledging what the person is saying. She's acknowledging that the person meant well for her, but she's also expressing her own feelings that, oh, you still hurt my feelings. 所以小丽在积极倾听，因为她有讲到她知道对方是为了她好，可是她是在跟对方说 虽然你是为了我好，你还是有伤害到我的心情，我还是感到很伤心。OK， 所以他在积极倾听。So what about Tom? So maybe someone is complaining to Tom about something. So Tom said, "Oh, you sound really angry about it." So do you think he's active listening? 所以小明有人跟小明好像讲东西，讲他很生气，那小明就说，哦，你好像对这件事情感到很生气。So he is active listening. Sometimes some people may take this as a bit judgmental, but Tom is trying to acknowledge the person's feelings. Even though the person is not saying that they are angry, he's sensing that they are angry. So that's why he's active listening, because he's trying to understand why the person is speaking in a certain manner. So he's active listening. 所以小明在积极倾听，因为他听了朋友说的话，他觉得朋友有一点生气，所以他是在听了朋友说的话后，就觉得他可能是对这件事有一点生气，就跟他朋友讲，你好像对这件事有一点烦恼，有一点生气哦，所以他就在积极倾听。Okay, and this is Jack. So as he listens to his friend, Jack is looking elsewhere and thinking about what to eat for lunch. So do you think he's active listening? 所以这是小杰当他在跟朋友说话的时候，他一直东张西望 then 一直想午餐要吃什么，所以你觉得他在积极倾听吗？ So of course he's not. He's thinking of other things, so that is straight away it's not active listening already. He's not even listening. Okay, 所以他就不再听对方的说的话，他也是不再积极倾听，因为他在想其他的事。Okay, so this is Adam. So probably his friend was telling him about a missed opportunity, something that didn't happen. So Adam is saying, oh, that's a shame. Maybe you can try again. So do you think he's active listening? 所以现在是阿达姆可能在跟朋友说话，但他的朋友可能有跟他讲，他错过了一个机会还是什么，那阿达姆就跟他讲，哦，太可惜了，你以后就可以再试一试吧。So he is active listening because he is trying to understand what the person is saying and trying to tune in with feelings. So thinking like, oh, that's a shame, like that is acknowledging the other person's feelings. 所以他就在积极倾听，因为他有讲哦太可惜了，他就为他朋友觉得很可惜 ，then 跟他讲哦以后你可以再试一试，所以他就在给一个适合的回复。So that's it for the activity. So if you have any questions, you all can ask me as usual. And remember to also do the program journal. I will be going through with you all that in the lesson as well. So don't worry if you all are not clear or anything. Okay? So that's it for today. 所以如果你还有其他的问题，你可以来问我。Then 记得要做另外一个作业。Then 我视频完了后，我也会再跟你们讲一次，所以不用担心如果你们不会做。Okay? So that's it for today.